The Haunted Hut, Stories from the Holy Mount Athos of Greece. Source book Demons and Their Actions, page 193 to 205. The Holy Mount Athos is found in a peninsula in northern Greece, east of the city of Thessaloniki, Salonika. It's an area of 20 large monasteries. These monasteries are to be visited by men only. Women are not allowed. It's a monastic community over 1,000 years old. Many of these large monasteries have hermitage huts and cells. They're for ascetics who wish to have more fervent prayer and fasting, and they live in solitude for most part. They are also visited by people who wish to talk to them, to confess to them. And this is a story having to do with what happened to one particular hut. There's a hut in the Iviron Monastery of Mount Athos called Saint Athanasius. It's located between the Kutlumuseu Monastery and the Skiti of Iviron. Skiti meaning another cell. A cell, of course, could be many huts together. It's not that big of a monastery. It was considered to be haunted because it was a house of demons. How did this happen? And here was what the elders of the regions have to say concerning this. One time a man moved into the hut, a man of unknown origin, with no information about his tonsure or his ordination. Soon after that, he gained the reputation of being a hermit and an experienced spiritual father. He proved to be nothing but a wizard and a ruthless criminal. His real identity was revealed when two monks went to confess to him. Two monks went to him for spiritual guidance. The first got in while the other one waited for his turn at a distance so that he wouldn't be able to hear his confession. Many hours passed by and the first monk would not come out. Hours went by, so the second one knocked on the door because he was worried. What could be taking so long? The quote-unquote confessor answered the door, but his face had such a wild expression that it scared the second monk who was waiting to go in. He asked curiously, "It's been hours. Aren't you done with the brother? We came from far away and it will be dark until we return." "Which brother?" said the quote-unquote spiritual father. "Which brother?" he asked. "Nobody came here until now apart from you. Come, get in. Come on in." The monk freaked out, and instead of getting in, of course, he started running towards Caries, using all his strength to run away from this criminal. After the report to the Holy Stewardship, the wizard was arrested. That was when his identity and goal of living inside of Mount Athos were revealed. About the monk who went to confess. He had killed and buried this monk in the forest. He had killed the monk and buried him in the forest. The hut was freed from the wizard but remained unoccupied for decades on end. It seems that demons had gained power since that time, the time of the wizard's service there, and they were teasing passers-by with various temptations. The first person who dared to live in the now haunted hut was Deacon John Diakoyannis. In 1935, he was seated as chanter in the Protato by the stewardship due to his sweet voice and his musical education. He wanted to live somewhere in Caries, in the area. "Deacon, I would advise you," they told him. Father Theodorus told he was the elder of the St. Anna hut. He suggested, quote, "To take the hut of St. Athanasius, it will give you an income from its hazelnuts, the hazel groves, and it has a large arable region." Deacon John was persuaded by his words and started to proceed to move into the hut. Then Father Theodosius prepared him for the controversial issue of the haunted hut. Quote, "Deacon, you should know that strange things happen in this hut. Noises and voices are heard without anyone seeing any faces. But you're not afraid of that stuff, are you? Even if something happens, you do your cross, ask for the holy help, and everything will disappear like smoke." And he answered, "Elder, these must be lies," Deacon John said. "No, I'm not a baby," he said, to get scared and run away. Soon the new tenant, along with his student monk, moved into the hut, into this haunted hut of St. Athanasius. But even from the very first days, problems arose. The student monk nagged Deacon John. He said, "Elder, it's hard for me to sleep here. Every once in a while, I think I hear people mumbling from the neighboring huts, and also mumbling and voices heard from the ceiling." Deacon John comforted him, saying, "It's nothing, don't be worried. Pray and don't be scared. After all, you're a grown man." And he said, "Elder, what if they're demons?" "So what about that? We came to Mount Athos to fight against our sins and also to fight against demons. Even if they are demons, you should despise them. Do what you have to do and let them mumble." During an evening, they sat down to have dinner after a day of hard work under the lamp's light. They had no electricity, of course, they have oil lamps. As they were eating, they heard voices again on the ceiling, just above their heads. The student monk got pale, and the elder's figure also got disturbed, because he was now starting to understand. He says, "Who is this?" as he yelled out loudly. "Who is this?" And the voice came from above, saying, "Should we come down to keep you company?" The student monk was now shaking, and the elder was dumbfounded. They both made the sign of the cross over their bodies. They crossed themselves. They were silenced, and puzzlement followed. They didn't know what to do. They said, "Let's leave. We can't live and flourish in here." So they decided to leave the hut. When they collected their frocks, their belongings, and left the door, contagious demonic laughter was heard from the ceiling again. They knocked on Father Theodosius' door in the night. When they returned, he let them in and heard their problems. He was surprised, of course. He wanted to say something to encourage them, to change their minds about what took place in the hut. He wanted to accompany them and stay with them there for a while. Deacon John was uncompromising. He didn't want to go back because of what he knew was there. He showed his student monk, who was still shaking because of fear of what took place. This story became famous in the whole region. Everyone heard of what took place there with Deacon John and his monk. Some monk, friend of Deacon John, Elder Gregory, rushed to meet and also to take care of him, to fortify him, in other words. Quote, "Aren't you embarrassed of being a grown man and still believe in fairy tales, running away like a rabbit, hiding behind Father Theodosius' robes?" This is what he told him, and other harmful and rude things because of his lack of boldness. After Deacon John heard all this with patience, this is when he said, "I'm not going back to that hut. I abandoned it decidedly. I will search for another place to stay, As far as the fairy tales are concerned, you go and stay in there for a night. Come back to discuss this again if you dare, and then we'll talk about what's going on there. Father Gregory, who passed away in 1987, elder of the St. Govdelas hut, could not understand how Deacon John, who is known for his prowess, his piety, his strength of spirit, finally got overtaken by demonophobia. Father Gregory is one of the fathers of Mount Athos who did not believe demonical appearances at all, and were making fun of those who were dealing with such nonsense. Until, of course, the same thing happened to him. After his conversation with Deacon John, he went down to his small port one evening, a little bit further from the tower of Caliagra, because he wanted to go fishing. He was from a coastal area from Yerisos and knew the art of fishing very well. He was a fisherman. During the sunset, he sailed on his little boat towards the open sea and started throwing his nets overboard into the fishing area, the fish pond. He was in a bad mood due to what had occurred that day, and he also had to deal with the bad weather. He said, "That's strange. If it were yearly wind, it should have called by now, by this hour. Do you think that this turns out to be the northwest wind?" is what he was mumbling to himself, thinking. He sailed back to the port, tied his boat handily, and prepared his dinner. In the meantime, his suspicions turned out to be true. It got windy, and the sea became very wild. If he had company, he could sail again to collect his fishing nets, but he could not do this alone at that time. It was too dangerous. He walked down to the port to tie the boat twice so that it would not be hit by the waterfront. He would not be hitting in the waterfront. While walking towards the spot, he heard somebody calling him by his name. "Hey, Father Gregory!" He felt strange. He concentrated to hear better and suddenly saw someone in the sea who was trying to front crawl towards him. "He must be someone I know," he whispered, but with so much frenzy. "And how did he show up that hour during the storm?" The man was about 20 to 30 meters away at that point. Father Gregory could not resist, and he yelled out to him, "Who are you?" "From the neighborhood," the swimmer answered. "I'm here from the neighborhood, from this area." He stopped swimming and emerged from the waves, huge, blackened, and ugly. His form changed, in other words. He had horns on his head and was waving his hand, greeting Father Gregory. "Virgin Mary!" Elder Gregory cried, crossing himself. For the first time in his life, he felt his heart tightening and his knees shaking. "Virgin Mary, help me," he said. When the demon heard Virgin Mary's name, he jumped back into the sea and disappeared like smoke. Concerning the fearless Father Elder Gregory, when he transcended his fear, he dumped the boats and the nets and locked himself in the port. Repentant about what he did not believe and was making fun of, he chanted Virgin Mary's hymns repeatedly with tears in his eyes all night long. After that, he walked up to the hut and described everything to his brothers and the monks in the neighborhood, in the area. He also went to Deacon John and apologized for the rude words he had said to him because he did not believe in what was taking place. During a certain year, the Real Monastery, in which the haunted cell is included, appointed monk Parthenius as caretaker of the hazel groves. As a caretaker, he was obliged to stay in the haunted hut for 2 months until the workers would collect all the hazels in the area of trees and transfer them into the monastery's storages. Father Parthenius died in 1965. He had a disadvantage in his personality. He was sometimes using very rude and cursed language, but he had very strong faith. faith in God and courage against demons, which appeared from time to time. He said, "My elders, I know where you sent me, but I will be obedient, since it's the monastery's needs that we collect the hazels. I could sleep outside the haunted place as the workers do, because demonic temptations happen during the night only. It's not acceptable for a monk to sleep with secular people together. I'm not afraid of demons at all, and you know why?" And he explains to them. "Because Virgin Mary, Portaitisa, protects me, and Jesus, who waits for my penitence, if not my correction, loves me. My elder, my spiritual father, taught me that unless God gives demons permission to harm me, they are unable to do so. And I state that I believe that. If they had the power, they would tease me, bother me, and even tear me down to pieces right here in this monastery, the Iviron Monastery. So I kneel before you, asking for your blessing, and God will help me." The workers pouted when they heard that the monk would be a caretaker, because they would not be able to steal anymore of the hazelnut production. They would feel full by his narrations and his jokes. During the night, Father Parthenius entered the haunted hut. He snuffed out his little lamp and he went to sleep. The workers got scared. They thought that he would prepare to sleep outside with them. Quote, "He's either crazy or doesn't know what happens in there," end quote. That's what somebody said. He wasn't even asleep when he heard footsteps in the corridor and in the next room. He thought that they were the workers coming in from the outside. The noises continued to be heard, so he got up to see who it was. He lit a candle and went to the corridor, but someone whom he didn't have the time to see actually blew out his candle. Father Parthenius rushed to catch him. That's when he tripped over something and almost fell on the floor, because it was, of course, so dark. "I will beat the first person I catch," he mumbled angrily, because he thought somebody came in there to steal something. He was feeling in the dark things close to him. He closed all the doors and locked the front door. He knew what he was doing. If there were workers who got in to steal the hazels, he would take care of them in the morning. If there were real demons, he would know what he had to deal with. He spent the rest of the night sleeping undisturbed. Nothing else took place. Father Parthenius, was everything all right during the night? The workers asked him in the morning. "Man, listen, if any one of you tries to get in the hut to steal at night, I will tie him and deliver him to the police. And if any one of you dares to play with me, to scare me and make me run away, you will bitterly regret it." The workers protested to him, said, "That's not true. We didn't do anything from what you said was taking place. Haven't you heard about the haunted hut? What happens to those who dare to spend the night there, and what the demons do to them?" Father Parthenius preferred to remain silent. Of course he heard. The following night, he decided to do something else. He was prepared. He locked all the doors, lit the storm lantern this time so that no one would be able to blow it out, and he kept a stiff stick close by to him like a club. It was already late when heavy footsteps were heard again in the corridor. "That's weird," he says. "I locked and secured the door. How did they get in again?" He got out of bed, enhanced the flame in the storm lamp, gripped the stick with his right hand, and walked towards the corridor. He didn't see anyone. He felt a strong puff of wind that actually blew the storm lantern out as if it was a candle of the previous night, something which is impossible to take place. Curiosity got the best of him. He entered the hut's church and prayed to Jesus adding towards the end, "Even if they are demons, Christ, you certainly don't give them the right to harm me, and I thank you for that." He kissed the Virgin Mary's icon, praying, "Virgin Mary, be with me as well and protect me." The next morning, workers could not resist asking him again, "What took place? Did anything scare you? We heard noises late in the night and saw you lighting a lamp." "Oh, I've heard many of the things that supposedly happened in this destroyed place, but I never believe any of them. Since yesterday's going-ons weren't your prank, and the same events continued the previous night, indeed, something strange is happening," is what he told them. On the third night, the invisible visitors became even more rude. During midnight, conversations were heard exactly outside of his door. He got up and eavesdropped what the voices were saying. He clearly heard his name being mentioned. He couldn't resist, so he yelled, "Who are you?" "The landlords, Father Parthenius. We are the landlords of this place," is what they said to him. And he asked them, "And what do you want from me?" "Nothing. We just keep you company," they said. He immediately crossed himself, but let out some curse words as well. Laughter was heard outside. By the demons, of course. Father Parthenius got mad. Said, "If you think that you're dealing with Deacon John and Elder Gregory, you're greatly mistaken. I'm obedient to the monastery, and I'm not leaving this place until all the hazels are collected." Laughter was heard again. As we said, it would take 2 months to do that. This time he got really mad. He tried to open the door, but the door could not open. He thought that someone was holding the handle tightly, and as he was pulling it towards himself, it still would not open. When Father Parthenius pulled it tighter, the demon left it abruptly, so when it opened, Father Parthenius fell backwards. Now, contagious laughter was heard in the corridor, by the demons, of course. That was how Father Parthenius spent all his nights in the haunted hut during the collection time, which, as we said, took 2 months. Everything he encountered could only be imagined to be done by demons. But everything demons heard during that night could only hear it from Father Parthenius. During the German occupation, 1941 to 1944, a secular man called Nondas went to live in the Real Monastery. He was talking, revealing his education, but everything he was saying would uncover that he maybe was simple-minded, harebrained. After tiring the fathers with his bunk, the Synexis, the collection of fathers, told him to leave. He asked to stay in the haunted hut without being obliged to any monastic tests. "You have our permission," the commissioners agreed, "but we have to inform you that you'll have a hard time living there because many strange things happen due to demonic actions and demonic attacks." And he answered in fluent Greek, "I happen to know the rumors. They must be fake, or they're probably illusions." That's how Nondas actually moved into the haunted hut of St. Athanasius. Due to the care and love of the nearby monasteries and the huts, his days were passing by just fine. They were taking care of his needs. During an era, the time came to get a taste of this positive aspect of this hut. In other words, the demonic attacks. During a Sunday morning after the end of the Holy Liturgy in St. Anna's hut, the fathers were gathering the main hall for the usual treat in the refectory. Suddenly, a monk who was looking out of the window saw dense smoke and huge flames coming out of the door and the windows of the haunted hut. "It's gone! The stupid man burned the hut down. We don't have time to do anything," someone said. They actually saw it on fire. They immediately tolled the bell to inform the others and run to save the forest at least, because of course we know that it's all of Mount Athos is a forest area. Some people ran to save Nondas, thinking that he didn't have time to come out of the burning hut. But there he was, suddenly walking up to them. "You burnt the hut down," scapegrace, someone belched, even though he was puffed because of running towards them. "No, Father," he protested, "I didn't burn the hut down. No, I didn't burn the hut down." "Aren't you blind? Can't you see that it's on fire? Smoke has reached to the clouds." And Nondas again said, "I didn't burn it down. I saw it, I did see it, and it's only an illusion." In the meantime, the other monks were protesting. "Why are you wasting your time with him?" someone pointed out. "We thought that you were burning inside it." "Relax, my fathers," Nondas reassured them. "You're worried without any reason. I already said that this is just an illusion. You keep saying stupid things," the oldest monk scolded him. "How can it be an illusion when we see smoke and flames? Did Satan bring you here to waste our time so that we only find ashes?" That's when he said and started walking first. They hadn't departed when Nondas started shouting, "Fathers, look, look, where is the smoke? And where are the flames? Look again." Indeed, neither flames nor smoke could be seen in the horizon any longer. That event was not just an illusion, according to Nondas. It was an obvious demonic attack. It was another temptation, one of those that happened in the haunted hut due to its occupation by the evil spirits. After the agreement with the Real Monastery, the Cenobic Skythi of St. Andrew took up the collection of the hazels on the haunted huts region. This was during one summer. Father Leondius was the supervisor of this. The hut's neighbors were calling him Tartar due to his Russian heritage and his impressive appearance. They called him the Tartar. As all fathers from Mount Athos, he would wear long, heavy leather boots even during the summer. As we know, there are a lot of scorpions there, even snakes, poisonous snakes in the area, which is very heavily forested. Even from his first day in the hut, he met a row of mice walking in front of him fearlessly. That's why he brought a fat cat from Sarai from his area, for that reason, to keep the rats and the mice away. During the night, the famous noises and the clangings woke him up again. He says, "I must have locked the cat outside," he said to himself. Let him in. I'll let him in." But when he got up, he stepped on the cat, who was sleeping soundly beside his bed, and it almost killed him with its claws. That's when he realized it was not the cat. After a while, the same sounds and the fuss and the mumblings were heard again. He got up to locate the sounds. Where are they coming from? When he touched the doorknob, he heard such a clamor that it deafened him. He opened the door, and a big pile of firewoods in the corridor fell on top of him. "Iskusiene, temptation," he shouted, scared and angry. Pirasmos, meaning temptation. He managed to free himself from the pile of firewood, but spent the rest of the night in the church of the hut. He left on the sunset and arrived at Sarai in the next morning. He headed straight to the Skythi's management in order to tell them what exactly had happened to him. "Elder, this happened to me tonight. I'm not going back to the haunted hut again. Let someone else go," is what he told them. And they scolded him, "Where is your faith? Where is your reverence to Mount Athos?" If demons tempted us more than usual, what should we do? Should we wander around Mount Athos and finally leave this world just because it would be the only place where they would leave us alone? After all these, Father Leondius regretted his timidity and his escape from the haunted hut. He encouraged himself more when he heard the elder say this: "Today I will perform a litany in that hut among other priests, with part of the Holy Cross of our Lord Jesus Christ and with holy relics of the saints. In addition, you will have 2 monks to keep you company." Indeed, they went to the haunted hut, performed a sanctification, and read the exorcism prayers. Even since then, Father Leondius and his company would rarely hear noises and voices after all this took place. Not from inside the hut, they heard noises from very, very far away. From our conversations with monks from the holy Mount Athos, they have told us that many a times when they are in these skeeties and these cells and these huts, which could be a series of rooms put together, or 1 or 2 to put together, and they pray, because as we know, the monastics pray at night. That's when the witches and warlocks and demons do their worst. They have their covens at night. So the monastics pray all night long, from sunset to sunrise. Many a times when they hold Holy Liturgy and prayers all night long, as we say, they hear knockings and mumblings and screamings and even voices of women asking for help. And as we said, the Holy Mount Athos has no women. And these are, of course, demonic attacks, trying to stop the monks from praying. They will do anything to stop them from praying. And their attacks at many a time are hand-to-hand combat, one-on-one combat. It's not like us who live in the secular world, walking around every day doing our business, who don't see them. The monks there actually do see them, and they actually do hear them. At one point, one monk that I know that is near us in the world today said, "They can even appear to you as a mountain. They will take any shape they can, from a mosquito to a person to an animal to a wind, a stiff wind, to a storm, to a huge mountain in front of you that's not really there. An illusion, like we saw here in this haunted hut, that the secular nondas who were there, they were ridiculing, actually was able to withstand the temptation, telling the fathers that, don't worry, it's only an illusion, it's not real." This is stories of the demons and their attacks. Book of Demons and Their Actions, pages 193 to 205. One of the stories from the many that the people of Mount Athos tell us. So this is from a book from the holy monastery Paraclete, which is about an hour's ride north of Athens, Greece.